Over the first 4 rounds of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, Martin Kroenke has looked almost untouchable. Despite having an error in the final corner of his final qualifying lap at Sebring, he's still been able to win the first 4 races, but they all took place in the Americas. We moved the series finally into Europe in the month of May, and as we go to one of the most historic racetracks in the history of Grand Prix racing, Monza, can Kroenke continue his domination, or will it be a chance to a teammate, Team Redline, Apex, Orion, or the silent underdogs that always exist at a fast track like this in NX Racing to have their first chance of victory? Qualifying comes up in just a few moments' time here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacingLive. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's the fastest race of the year, and that means there's almost certainly going to be some fireworks. Welcome to the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, round number 5. There are 3 different paths if you want to call yourself a world champion of sim racing. NASCAR, open wheels, or endurance racing. But no matter which one you take, you can guarantee that the journey will always be tough, which few will ever complete. The iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, the premier road racing series in sim racing, started with a new car taking center stage. Then, it was Martin Kroenke resisting any challenge thrown at him to break the 5-year stranglehold of Gregor Hutu as being world champion. These drivers and teams are not just competing for pride, they're competing for money. And with over $20,000 in prizes for each of the series up for grabs, drivers really do put it all on the line.
The NASCAR Beginner for Series powered by iRacing is the premier NASCAR eSports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time Oval World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign.
The Blancpain GT Series hosts the top GT3 endurance teams in sim racing, with groups of 3 or more drivers sharing the wheel. This is a championship you can't win alone, and you need the same determination, passion and drive from your teammates to be successful. They often say that it takes just one mistake to lose a championship, and in team racing it may not be your mistake that costs you the win. Last season, VRS Coanda SimSport won the championship by a single point. This year, who will step up to the plate?
These are the iRacing eSport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. Catch it all season long with live coverage on iRacing.com/live. Welcome to Monza, that since 1950 has been the staple point for motor racing, Formula One racing in the heart of Italy. And yes, whilst there have been 2 Grand Prix in Italy, and yes, whilst Imola might be closer to Ferrari's headquarters, this is the track that drivers love to come to. It's the fastest Grand Prix circuit in the land. Juan Montoya showed that in 2003. And once upon a time, they raced on the oval that surrounds this racetrack as well. That no longer is the case. Qualifying is already underway for the 5th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. You'll see we'll be racing for 53 laps a little bit later on. Track temp, it's heated up from race day. It's 81 degrees Fahrenheit, 49% humidity, and we've got wind speeds of 11 kilometers an hour. It's Will Vincent, Jonathan Simon, as qualifying is already what we are paying our attention to. Martin Kroenke has just done his first lap. He's currently fastest as we go on board then with the driver of Gregor Hutu, who I believe is on a lap or an out lap at the very least, Johnny.
Yep, definitely is. Welcome, everybody. Hutu has the pace for a race victory this season, but this is the session he needs to master. And when he finally mastered qualifying, he had a poor start at Sebring. He dropped down the order. Here he comes to Ascari, and you're just trying to warm up to the lap right now. You've done 2 weeks, 3 weeks of practice for this already, depending on how many days break you've taken. So it's just about getting your confidence here, because drivers sometimes get so nervous their legs start to shake come the Parabolica. No need for that. You're a 5-time world champion. Just get on with it.
Yep, there is Hutu then dancing towards the start-finish line right now. And what is the situation for Gregor Hutu as he starts a lap? Well, he's going to brake hard in towards turn number 1. Let's ride on board of him as he goes through that first chicane. Challenge number 1 complete. And we talked in race day quite heavily, Johnny, about the difference between open wheel cars and Tim Top cars, so that they can use the curbs in the Porsche, but not in the Formula Renault. Same applies here in this McLaren. They cannot abuse those curbs. They can touch the kind of tricolored coloured ones, but not those sausage curves that line the outside of the chicanes.
No, and you saw Hutu there, brilliant through the Della Roggia. Here he goes towards Lesmo 2, using all the camber on the throttle early there, because the camber helps ease the car into the corner. And then on the back straight here, and the race are going to be using DRS for an overtake into this corner. Ascari, so difficult, one of my most hated corners, but that's what makes it so lovely. Bump at turn 9 there, through number 10. Don't run too wide, because you'll end up in the grass and possibly into the wall on the outside. And then a short break here to gather yourself up for the Parabolica, spotting your brake marker, trail braking into the corner, rolling onto the throttle. No gravel runoff there when they put the tarmac. It's pretty much removed the excitement out of that corner. Here's Hutu across the line though, with a 1 minute 21.713 provisional pole for him, provisional front row alongside Patrick Holtzman.
Yep, and I was just there, just taking a look at the sector times, because I want to compare them to Martin Kroenke's in a moment. Top 4 drivers right now, separated by exactly 1/10 of a second. It's Patrick Holtzman, who is in 2nd place, Bono House in 3rd, Martin Kroenke 4th, Marcus Jensen, Peter Berriman to the top of the timing stands there for Apex Racing UK. I did talk about how it could be a day where we'll see another team come through here. Mitchell de Jong is on a lap as we speak. We're right on board of him now in that number 24 VRS Commander Sim Sports machine. So it's now Berriman from Hutu, from Holtzman, from House, from Kroenke, Backham, Jensen, Pakula, Shawhorse, Preston, moving up into that 10th position. There are 2 qualifying sessions going on, so we will need to keep you updated after qualifying is scored complete. But we go back on board with Mitchell de Jong then, as he now attacks that Ascari chicane. A little bit rugged on the first part of that. That's going to compromise his speed all the way through that Ascari chicane. And now you're flat out towards Curva Parabolica. And what you saw with Gregor Hutu is how he went all the way to the edge of the racetrack, almost getting 2 wheels on that white line. God, de Jong does that and goes a little bit too much over, gets a little bit of oversteer as a consequence. De Jong then going to dance towards the line. He goes 2nd, but that was a pole lap ruined in the final corner, Johnny.
It looks like track conditions are improving too, so no wonder these guys progressively are improving their lap time. And it looks like everybody going out there again. Hutu, Holtzman, Kroenke out there as well at the right time. Bono Haas, though, he's completed all his qualifying runs, and that may come back to bite him, Will, because as we mentioned, track conditions improving as the session goes on. And Bono could be falling down the order like a fly here.
There is Martin Kroenke, number 5, VOS Koana Sim Sports Machine. And again, early on, it was very close. But Mitchell de Jong, Peter Berryman have really been able to stretch their legs as they have almost a 0.2 of a second advantage over the field. As now Kroenke is going to start his final qualifying run of the day. This is important here because Kroenke's qualified in the top 4 for every round of this championship so far, and he currently runs in 6th place. Jamie Fluke moves himself up into the 10th place for the time being. We'll talk about the likes of Inex Racing, we'll talk about the likes of Apex Racing as we continue through our webcast here this afternoon, because I think it's going to be very interesting to see what downforce levels people are running. As there is Martin Kroenke, there is Gregor Hutu. Gregor Hutu is going to start his final qualifying lap now. So it will be Martin Kroenke who comes past the start-finish line first out of those two. Running a little bit wide on the exit of the second Lesmo as Chen Bullet Bassi moves himself up into the 9th position in qualifying. Kroenke now down into that Ascari chicane for what will be his final time in qualification. Very good run there. You see just running over the Astro Curve even on the exit of the corner, but that's okay. It is allowed here. Now towards the Parabolica, and we saw how Mitchell de Jong ruined his qualifier by going too far wide. Kroenke almost does exactly the same. Doesn't get any snap oversteer though. He drives towards the line. Now Martin Kroenke only 3rd place for him, as it's now back to Gregor Hutu. Hutu is now down into P number 4 because Kroenke has gone faster. So it's currently Berryman, then de Jong, then Kroenke, then Hutu, then Holtzman. But this now is going to be a very important 30 seconds of qualifying, because if Hutu can get himself out front, we've got Tails with Sebring all over again, and then we've really got to talk about getting the start right here at Monza. But no one so far has been able to get close to Peter Berryman, with the exception of Mitchell de Jong, as Gregor Hutu moves himself back past Martin Kroenke. De Jong on another lap as we speak here, Johnny.
Yeah, this is really brilliant. This will be Kroenke's worst starting position because he's got 3 poles. De Jong backs out though, incredibly. Mitchell de Jong backs out of his lap, and that is his qualifying session done and dusted. So Hutu on the 2nd row alongside his championship rival Kroenke. Holtzman to 5th, improved his time but not his position. Bono has damage limitation there, only 6th with an improving track, so good stuff from them. Wow, just looking to see if anybody else in the field's going to come across the line soon. And what an ending to the session. Peter Berryman, depending on whether we merge these session times, Will, that could be his first career pole position in the number 69 Apex Racing UK car. Yeah,
and of course that team has had pole position before. But Berryman then, very, very accomplished qualifying by him on a track where if you can dance away and you've got yourself a low downforce setup, then you can really take control of this motor race. Isaac Price in the Core Sim Racing car is currently in the 19th place. He is the only driver on track right now as he circulates around for the final time. Not going to be happy with P number 19, so we're going to go on board of him as he works through Lesmo number 1. And there is a look at the gap to your race leader. It's 9/10 of a second almost, as Price very rugged there on the exit of the second Lesmo. And I think that for drivers that went out at the right time, Johnny, the wind speed was, not necessarily wind speed, the wind direction was favourable to them, giving them a bit of a tow when it's needed, but also reducing that understeer through the Lesmos.
Yeah, that's possibly one of the cases. It's hard to digest really for some of these guys with where they're on the grid right now. Yoni Tormala, P15, wow. I mean, he's very quick, Yoni. He definitely won't be pleased with that. He was a 2-time race winner in this McLaren. Here's Isaac Price across the line. He improves by, guess how much, Will? 0.006 of a second. And unfortunately, he spent the last 3 minutes to do that. But he's still P19. Hopefully, he makes the grid. It looks like both himself and the rest of his core teammates are struggling a little bit, except for Cembuluk-Bassi.
Interesting qualifying. Very interesting qualifying there, as we'll run you through your results then from qualifying, as it is Peter Berriman who gets himself to the top of the mountain. Pole position provisionally for him then, 121.519. Mitchell de Jong provisionally starting alongside him on that second row of the grid. Third place in our session goes to Gregor Hutu, then Martin Kroenke. Worst qualifying of the year for him. He will round out no better than fourth here today. Patrick Holtman for Hexenveld Core Motorsports in fifth place. Then Bono House in sixth. Koana Sim Sports, Mark Backham in seventh. Marcus Jensen for Apex Racing UK in eighth. Cembuluk-Bassi Corsim Racing in ninth. And then Ollie Packard for Team Redline in your top 10. I'm trying to do the math on the fly here. We've got ourselves 6 different teams inside your top 10, Johnny.
Yeah, wow, that's great. It's good to see. Oh, actually, do we? No, Hutu and Haas are Redline. So 5. 5 in the top 5. That's all right. Still something different. 6. Wait, who's 6?
5, you're right.
5, yes.
Let's move on to the second part of the results.
Yes, let's go. I got very scared there. I thought I was wrong for a second. I do, just quickly, looking at the field as well, Alexei Usiakula down in P17. I want to mention quickly, the guy's got a lot of pace. I'm going to stick up for him until sometime in the future when he retires, and based on Juan Pablo Montoya, who's 75 years old and still racing, it could be another 50 years. But I'm going to stick with Alexei Usiakula until day's end. That guy's got pace. If he puts in the work, I want to see him back up there getting more race wins. Yeah,
as that is the rest of your results. What we're going to do on RaceSpotTV is step aside for a few moments, and when we come back, we'll show you the pole app from Peter Berriman. We'll talk a little bit more about the dynamics of this Monza racetrack as well, because it's very, very different to what you'll see in most Grand Prix, especially when we talk about downforce levels. Fuel may be a bit of a factor as well. Back with more after this.
Get ready, going green. Green, green, green.
The NASCAR Beginner for Series powered by iRacing is the premier NASCAR eSports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time NASCAR World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign, and as it has been for the 7 years prior, it is no longer going to be a straight shot to the championship. We are going to see the biggest change in this championship picture in series history, as for the first time ever, there will be a chase for the championship. We're going to go into the Homestead Miami Speedway at the end of the season with the 4 best oval sim racing drivers in the world absolutely tied in the championship. You just got to beat the other 3 guys out and you will become an official NASCAR champion. You're going to get yourself a NASCAR championship ring and, of course, $10,000. These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. You can catch it all season long, live coverage on iRacing.com/live.
Topsy-turvy grid here at Monza here this afternoon as Peter Berryman claims his first ever pole position in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Let's live the lap on board with him, and really that lap starts all the way back here at Curva Parabolica. Got to get yourself a good run. You'll take a different line on your out lap to what you'll do at the exit of your fast lap. Berryman, pole position here today, Johnny, and it was a blistering lap.
Brilliant stuff from Peter Berryman. Last year's pole time, a 1 minute 23.290. Berryman with a 21.518. So conditions here better, and he just seemed to ace the lap here, the young man, and he grabs a pole position for the Apex Racing UK team. Now he just has to maintain that through the race because look who's behind him on the grid. Mitchell de Jong, race winner. Hutu, 5-time world champion. Kroenke, that's it. It's just amazing with that name itself. Holtz from behind too, very fast. Bonner Haas, he's very historic with his success in sim racing. The talent just goes on. He's got a race on his hands.
We have got confirmation of your final grid. We'll talk about that one in a moment's time, as here's then the second part of the lap for Peter Berryman. Let's ride on board and listen in for a scoring. Interesting to note there with Peter Berryman that he didn't run those wheels across the white line like a couple of other drivers did. And that, you saw that with Mitchell de Jong, how he blew his fast lap away by the fact that he just pushed too wide down at Curva Parabolica. Got himself a double dose of oversteer. If he hadn't have done that, he would have been fine. He would have been in pole position, Johnny.
Yeah, possibly. So it's different styles, different techniques. It also depends on setup too, whether your car can handle what Peter Berryman was doing, for example, which I think is the ideal way to go through the Parabolica, kissing the apex as close as possible, rolling onto the throttle, an oval driving technique. So it's all coming into play at Monza, a circuit which also has a very long oval, which is no longer in use, but you can simulate that using the iRacing service, of course. I want to ask you, Will, with the questions here. Hutu and Kroenke in the second row, are they looking ahead to first and second, or are they more concerned with who's behind? How do you handle this start from that perspective?
Always look ahead, because if you start looking backwards, you're not looking forward, and if Berryman or de Jong gets a bad start, then things are going to go south very, very quickly. We have got your combined grid now to talk about, and it is Peter Berryman, who will start in pole position, Mitchell de Jong in second, Gregor Hutu in third place, and then Martin Kroenke fourth, Patrick Holtzman in fifth. Then Daniel Arndt Wernting in the sixth place, Bono House in seventh, Kazuki Umeshima eighth, David Court in 9, and then Matt Bakker rounding out your top 10. Balis Remniak, Mogar Filo, Marcus Jensen, Chamberlain Bassi, Oli Pakala, Oli Pakala even rounding out your top 15. Fluke, Piatello, Shawhorse, Dinkel, and Michaels are your top 20. The drivers that do not qualify here today. Remember, there's only 35 drivers that will make the race. That is Daniel Bieder, Victor Prado, Diego Oliveira, Fernand Kern, Paul Ilbrink, and Dion Vergers. The difference between being in and being out here today, 7/1000ths of a second.
Yep. Poor Daniel Bieder. He's not in this event. Prado behind to Oliveira, Kern, Ilbrink, Vergers, as we mentioned. The names there as well. A lot of those guys looking to improve on pace. I'm surprised Ilbrink is down there, though. He's a guy we've always seen, Will, in the pretty much mid to late teens as well, where he finishes his events. Jurgis just scraping through, though. Important for him because he's got immense amount of pace, but both himself and Price, his teammate, are struggling, and Bullock Bussey showing up his two teammates there, Chem, in one of his early races with his new team. Indeed
so. We've got one team change for this event. Alex Bergeron, who qualifies in 32nd place, changing teams, leaving the Apex Racing Academy, moving to a new team here for this event. What team is that, I hear you ask? That is Fast Lane Motorsports. Let's talk about Apex, because Peter Berryman, that was an absolutely fantastic pole lap, and it would be very easy for me to write this off as, oh, it's Monza. You know, you always expect the unexpected here, but Apex Racing UK have really, I think, made the most of this 3-week break between the 4th and the 5th round of the championship. And it did seem to be that we always see, as the intensity grows and you've got back-to-back races, some of the teams who are not at the very cutting edge sometimes just lose half a tenth here and there. Doesn't sound like a lot, it is a lot. 3-week recovery really does seem to have helped Apex, especially in terms of Peter Berryman here.
It does. It would have been good to see the likes of Graham Carroll out here today, who's obviously at Monaco for the Formula E event, so he's not up there, but he's got immense amount of pace. He thinks he's faster than Peter Berryman, obviously. I'm pretty sure Peter also thinks he's faster than Graham, the two teammates. That pushes them both along to be quick, but just crazy amounts of pace. But the concern I have is Apex's race pace hasn't been as impressive as their qualifying pace. Now, remember Montreal, Will, with Graham Carroll, and started up there, up the order there in where did he start? He started in
somewhere.
He started somewhere. Excuse me. I'm trying to look at the timing. I'm looking at Sebring. Here we go. So Graham Carroll started on pole, and it just didn't go that well for him. I'm sorry, he went into turn 1 in first place. Cronke's on pole. Excuse me here while our data sheets are all over the place. But regardless of what I'm trying to say is, Graham did lead the first 4 laps. He was in front, and the pace just wasn't there for long term. So that's the key for Peter coming up in race time, is from pole position, does he have the race pace to continue in that first position with a mad scrambling talent behind?
I think it will come down to one or two circumstances. If Berryman can get away and there's trouble behind him and he can pull out a gap early, I think Peter Berryman will have the legs to take this victory. If Berryman doesn't take turn 1 in the lead, it'll be interesting to see whether that car has got the downforce and the speed combined to actually retake that race lead. And this is one of the interesting circumstances about Monza, whether guys will go into a more medium downforce setup or whether they'll stick with what they know, because there are some corners where you actually need quite a bit of downforce. The Ascari chicane, the 2 Lesmos, Curva Parabolica, but at the flip side of that, you've got a lot of long straightaway, 70% on throttle here.
Yeah, you do. Surprisingly, though, in the McLaren, a lot of drivers have told me in the past, it may have changed this round anyway, but a lot of them would opt for the high downforce package in the McLaren, surprisingly, just because the medium to low, it's just not quick for overall lap time. So that's based on car setup. May have changed this round. I'm not sure what each of the teams are running. Obviously, if they told me, then I'd have all the secrets in the world. But that's at least what happened last year as well. Some teams trialed the medium downforce package at Indy, even the low. And for some teams it worked, for some teams it didn't. So it just depends at the racetrack you're at. But as you said, Lesmo, very important. They're more medium speed corners. So you're looking at the roll bar, slight bit of downforce too in the McLaren, but the Ascari chicane and the Parabolica, most importantly, is pretty much the Parabolica is your only real downforce corner, because the rest of the Ascari and the Lesmos are more medium speed roll bar corners.
Well, We are about to head ourselves over to race coverage then for the 5th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. It is a very interesting grid. It's Kroenke's worst qualifying of the season, and he's been out-qualified for the 2nd time this year by Gregor Hutu. Hutu is arguably on the cleaner side of the track as well, but it's going to be a case of, can they all survive that first chicane? Who knows? We're going to find out in about 11 minutes time here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacingLive. Don't go anywhere. With a grid like this, you're going to want to see the start.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got 'em for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Hey guys, Christopher Bell here. As you guys know, iRacing is coming out with dirt, and it's been a long time coming. So I'm here today to kind of show you around the sprint cars and hopefully give you some insight for whenever you first drive it. So here we are at Williams Grove, gonna go out and make a couple laps in the 410 wing sprint car. I'm on default setup with a gear change to a 522. As we roll out of the pits, you guys might notice that the car wants to pull left and you have to hold the steering wheel right to go straight. That's normal for a sprint car because you have so much stagger, it's always trying to turn the car left. Once you get up to speed, that goes away. Going down the straightaways, Williams Grove has really long straightaways and really tight corners. The big wings on the sprint cars, it always wants to pull you left into the corner, so it doesn't take much steering wheel input to get the car into the corner. A big key for the wing sprint cars is that they always like to go straight. They don't like to be too sideways. So the less steering wheel input you can have and the straighter you can keep the car, the faster you'll go. As the track slickens off, you'll be able to play with the setup to get the car driving even straighter yet. And that's a couple laps around Williams Grove. So here we are at Eldora Speedway. I'm on baseline setup with a gear change to a 511. As we roll out at Eldora Speedway, one thing that you'll notice is that the corners are really sweeping and it's almost a circular shape. The big thing about Eldora is just keeping that steering wheel straight. The straighter you keep the wheel and the less steering input that you give the car, the faster you'll go. The fast line around Eldora will be right around the inside wall in the corners and then with a big arc towards the outside walls down the straightaways. Then once the track slicks off, you'll be able to follow the groove up towards the outside wall, where the famous Eldora Highline comes into play. So now we're at Volusia Speedway Park with the 410 wing sprint car. I'm on baseline setup with a 511 gear, the same as what we ran at Eldora. Whenever you roll out on the racetrack, you'll notice that Volusia is similar to Eldora. They have long sweeping corners, and it's kind of circular in shape. At Volusia, whenever the track is fast, you'll want to be right down against the concrete wall in the corners with a nice big arc down the straightaway. Whenever the track starts to slicken up, you'll be able to follow the groove up higher and higher. Whenever you get into turns 3 and 4 though, the groove might get up onto the shelf, which is the flatter section of the racetrack. And then it becomes very difficult to exit turn 4 without getting into the wall. And that's just one of the characteristics of Volusia Speedway Park. Hope you guys have fun.
The NASCAR.
Welcome to Monza for the 5th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series in what promises to be now the most unpredictable Grand Prix of the season so far. Yes, we had that chaotic start at Sebring, but this one has got the 2 championship contenders on row 2 of the grid. A new pole sitter, a driver alongside him on the front row of the grid who was that close from snatching pole himself, and a field of protagonists behind that all want to make a statement. So welcome then, ladies and gentlemen, Wilkinson along with Jonathan Simon, as we are about 4 minutes away from the start of this event. Air temp 79 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity 44%, wind speed of 6 kilometers an hour right now, as we're immediately going to show you your starting grid for this motor race. And it's Peter Berriman who'll be starting out front with Mitchell de Jong alongside him, very close on that front row of the grid. Hutu just beat Martin Kroenke on his 2nd effort here this afternoon, and then we cycle on back. You'll notice the fact that it is Patrick Holtzman in P number 5, Daniel Wenzing in P number 6, Roberto House, Kazuki Umashima on the 4th row of the grid, David Corpse and Mac Backham in row number 5. Balas Remniak, Mogar Philo will round off row number 6. And then Marcus Jensen and Chembala Batty, row 7. Ollie Packard, Jamie Fluke in row 8. Row number 9 belongs to Marty Piatella and Frank Shawhorse. Apex Racing UK's Michael Dinkle. And Vortex Sim Racing Stephen Michaels round out your top 20. There's a remainder of the results up on your screen as we speak. Jonathan Simon, what is going to happen into turn number 1?
Well, we'll wait and find out in a few minutes' time. That's what all these drivers are practicing now. The likes of Kroenke, who has a 100% win record this season from all his starts, does a practice start through the exit of the pit lane. Your brake marker is different, obviously, to your normal one heading into the first corner for the first time. Now, remember, he starts this race from 4th, which is his worst qualifying performance all season, around the 5.8 kilometers, 3.6 miles, that is Monza. 11 turns around this circuit. I'd say the best overtaking spots will for this race into the Rettifilio, the first chicane, the Della Roggia 2, if you can't get it done into that first chicane, and then you look into Ascari and possibly the Parabolica if somebody makes a mistake coming out of the Ascari chicane.
A brave man that manages to get the opportunity to close up through that second chicane, may try and make a move into the Lesmos as well. And we've seen many a driver try and do that over the course of the years we've been racing here in the World Championship Grand Prix Series. The Variante Della Roggia, of course, is, in my opinion, the most difficult of those 3 chicanes, Johnny, because there is probably less room for error there than the first chicane and the Variante Ascari.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely so. You look at the curbs as well, which we saw in our support series races with the Formula Renault and the Porsche Super Cup. We saw the Formula Renault very, very lenient on the curbs, but the Super Cup, they were going all over the curbs, trying to bounce over them, gain as much lap time as possible. The two DRS zones here today, you've got the main straight obviously, and you've got the back straight on the run to Ascari, so that helps the drivers. But in terms of dirty air, that's the most important part, is the run out of the corner, whether or not the rear anti-roll bar keeps the rear end stable. You don't have too much load though on the rear end, because that will obviously mean you'll drift out of the corners and it won't be any fast.
Want to give a shout out to our partners here before we go green. First of all, 2 and 1 Design, the official graphics partner of RaceSpotTV. App Engineer, TV overlay for iRacing, ATVO for short, the official graphics engine of RaceSpotTV, as well as Islam Balal's track cams for gourmets. Download them now from the iRacing forum. Want to give a shout out to Shannon Whitmore, Tyler Hudson, and the rest of the stewarding team as well for the 5th round of this championship. You've been looking at Peter Berryman, who will start this race for the first time on pole position. He's got a combined 6 World Championships behind him on that second row of the grid. Now, the last time we had someone other than Martin Kroenke start out front this season, they had a miserable start, and that one is certainly going to be in the back of Peter Berryman's mind as they now commence that gridding process here this afternoon. And from here on in, it's a case of who can get themselves down to that first chicane, and can they all survive that one without incident. Beautiful day here at Monza. We'll just show you then that weather one more time. It's 79 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind speeds, they are slight at 6 kilometers an hour. The humidity at 44% means that we are likely to see some good drafting here over the course of the motor race, as now we wait patiently for the drivers to assemble on that starting grid. Lap number 1 is quite often about survival, but if you manage to time it right, there's a good chance you can make up places. Your front couple of rows are almost there. They are almost set and ready to go. Behind them, other drivers will be making sure that if something happens in front of them, they are able to react quickly. If you can point yourself through, there's a good chance you can gain positions. Lights are on top of the gantry then. Let's get round 5 of the championship underway. Lights are out, and the drivers will now come storming down towards turn number 1. Here comes the first question. Who's going to get the best start? I tell you one thing, Hutu again slow on that run down in towards the first corner. Now, can they all survive that first chicane? No, we've got 2 drivers who've just been tagged in your midfield, but it looks like most people have been able to get away without too many incidents. Hutu right now going side by side with Martin Kroenke. That is for P3 on track. Who's going to win that one as they work themselves into that second chicane? The answer is going to be Gregor Hutu. That one is going to be very important in the early stages of this event. Hutu able to work himself around the outside of Martin Kroenke and takes that early position back away. Peter Berryman does keep the race lead, but Mitchell de Jong is hounding him as they work themselves down towards the Variante Ascari for the first time in this motor race. And to give you an update, we did see the driver of Alexei Utiakola having a couple of issues. He had to take the shortcut, and Fraser horse Michael Dinkel are both out of this event, Johnny.
Yep, along with Fabrizio Jobbi, and what a start from Hutu. That was a roller coaster of a start there. He had the poorest getaway off the line and was falling back down the order, but he had a clean braking zone in front and threw it around the outside of Martin Kroenke, and the 5-time world champion showing his worth here. Brilliant stuff, but look at the battle for the lead. De Jong very, very close, but I think Berryman has the breathing space into the first corner as he leads lap number 1.
Yep, he does. Live timing and scoring will be available in just 1 moment's time here. Visit racespot.tv/timing for that one, as we've got ourselves then a 2-car breakaway initially between Peter Berryman and Mitchell de Jong as they now circulate down towards that second chicane for the second time in this event, as getting themselves now into a form of rhythm. We've seen a couple of overtakes early on in this event, but most drivers have been able to get themselves through the chaos of that first lap without too many incidents. De Jong is currently 4 tenths of a second behind Peter Berriman. DRS won't be available until they come past the start-finish line to start their 3rd lap, but De Jong is looking feisty early on.
He definitely is. And De Jong hasn't won a race this season. Obviously, all those wins have gone to Kroenke, and this could be the best chance for anybody to knock off Martin from the top step of the podium. This is going to be a hectic 53 laps of racing. And Kroenke through the exit there has the poorest getaway out of the Parabolica. Vensing, though, what a start, Will, from 6th to 5th. And he's shown some good pace here in that Radicals Online car. Some positivity for Radicals for once.
Yeah, and Radicals haven't had the best of season, shall we say. They have been struggling for raw pace. And, of course, Paul Hilbrink didn't make the field here today. But Kazuki Umeshima also, he's not having a bad race. He runs himself in the 13th place. He has lost a couple of places from where he started, but he is still circulating in that number 43 Radicals Online machine. So DRS is going to be open and available for drivers this time by, and your top 9 drivers will all be able to make use of that DRS. We've got P number 21, 22, Tomer Meglic versus Jan Vaz. They're going side by side in towards the second chicane, and there's contact as a consequence, and Jan Vaz is turned around down at that second chicane, and as a consequence, he falls well down to the back of the order for the time being. We'll get ourselves a second look at that one momentarily, as we're keeping one eye towards the front of the field as well, because DRS is now available, and Mitchell De Jong, we're going to see whether he can close off. As for Jan Vaz, he did just hit the curb, and another driver ran into the rear of him. Through the Parabolica they come, though. Mitchell De Jong versus Peter Berriman as they try to scrap it out for the race lead. Here's our first indication, as if De Jong's got good straight line speed here today. As they come down towards that first chicane, the answer to that question is going to be easily, yes, move Mitchell De Jong to the top of the timing stands, Johnny.
Yep, good move from Mitchell. Look at the traction on the exit. Mitchell has a twitch, and that slows Peter Berriman down. So now he falls into the clutches of Gregor Hutu, and add Kroenke to this fight too. This could be 3 wide into the Della Roggia chicane.
Here comes Hutu, thinking about it, but no, doesn't make the move into that second chicane, knowing arguably that Martin Kroenke was right behind him, and a bad run for Hutu could have impacted on the ability for Kroenke to find a way past. But we have ourselves a new race leader, and it did look easy there for De Jong. The situation's now going to be, A, can Peter Berriman keep in DRS range with these 2 world champions right behind him, and B, what straight line speed does Peter Berriman have?
Yeah, that's the big question, as you mentioned. There's that bump through Ascari that unsettles the car. You have to make sure that you keep the car stable. You don't put too much throttle into that section of the racetrack. Kroenke, though, is very close to Hutu. It's just out of the Parabolica. Kroenke seems to just... he struggles through this corner. It seems to be on the exit of the Parabolica where he struggles, because the entry he's fine. But once he starts applying the throttle, Hutu and Berriman seem to break away there. But here we go, round number 2 in this fight.
As Hutu has the DRS flap wide open, down to the inside, in towards the first chicane. And actually, no, he can't. But Berriman then goes all over the curb. He's going to lose 1 place, and Kroenke's been held up a little bit. As a consequence, now Kroenke should find a way past in towards that second chicane, because Berriman had a miserable exit out of their Apex car on the right-hand side of your screen. Martin Kroenke on the left-hand side, and Kroenke up into 3rd place. So Berriman falling back a little bit there, and that could be a little bit of the pressure coming now on towards Peter Berriman, because he really didn't attack. And you see that, we're going to rewind that one just a few seconds back, really just outbraked himself into that first chicane, and from there he was never going to hold on to that position.
Nope, definitely not. So Berriman now, he really needs to pick up the rhythm again. He needs to pick himself up, or else he'll find himself behind Daniel Vensing as well. So Berriman, a 20-year-old from Northern Ireland, from pole position. So far, it's as we expected. We know the Apex race pace isn't as strong compared to a Redline or a Coanda race pace from those types of drivers, from De Jong, Hutu, Kroenke, have all made their way past. This is the first time we've seen Vensing up in the top 5 ever. And it'll be interesting to see how he performs. He's only 2.8 seconds away from the lead, and it's lap 6. So he's not dropped off the pace at all.
Here comes Kroenke on the outside of Gregor Hutu in towards the first chicane. Going to try and make the outside line work, and Hutu slides across the curb there on the inside of that first chicane. Give the position to Martin Kroenke, and again, out-braking himself there with Gregor Hutu, trying to slow that car down, arguably to make sure the two world champions don't come together. We replay that one then as he slows it down. Yeah, that car just slides, the back end slides out, and he just drifts along that sausage curb. Hutu now down into third, and well, all of a sudden, we've got a Commander 1-2 here.
Yeah, where did that come from? And most importantly, Hutu was trying his hardest through that first chicane. Definitely didn't want Kroenke to go around the outside easy. He knows that once you allow Kroenke to be released, that it could be pretty much game over, and he did try to fight. That's the dramatic part about it. He's still within the clutches now, but he's lost another 3 tenths now since that battle took place. So, wow, let's see how the battle between De Jong and Kroenke evolves, but I don't know if Hutu has the race pace at this stage.
We have a look at Bono House versus Matt Backham. That one's going on for 7th place on track. When you talk about releasing the Kroenke, don't forget, you can buy yourself a Release the Kroenke t-shirt on the RaceSpotTV shop as 124.547 for Kroenke. He has indeed been released. RaceSpot.tv/shop as Bono House moves himself past Matt Backham, and that is now P7 for him as he circulates a little bit further ahead in this field. Behind, we've got Marta Piatella versus Mogar Filo. That's going on for 11th place. Behind that, Yuri Tamala versus Yuta Saito. That is for 15th place on track as we have ourselves Isaac Price versus Marcus Jensen. That is for P24.
Wow, these are some entertaining first few laps. As I said in the Formula Renault race, we should make a 30 for 30 on these early laps here. Oh, look at Saito though. Almost running into the back of Joni Tormala at the Della Roggia. Holds back Belazaz Remeniek, who's now having a fall under attack from Kevin Ellis Jr. through Lesmo 1. They remain stagnant. Nobody's moved positions, but Saito under braking there, lost his marker. And you're basically braking under the bridge, looking for the marker. It doesn't really change right now because fuel in this car, it's obviously half the amount of fuel you'd use in a car that's on full tank pre-2014 F1 rules. This is the McLaren MP430. So you don't really think that they'll be that heavy at this stage in terms of, excuse me, they wouldn't be losing as much in terms of weight. So the brake marker from the first lap to the last lap is almost basically the same, I'd say, just a slight bit of difference.
Hutu still runs in that 3rd place. He couldn't use the DRS to get back in contact with Martin Kroenke. Interesting to note, though, that last time by Martin Kroenke was a little bit faster than Mitchell de Jong. In fact, he's been faster now for the last 2 laps. Lap number 60 was 17/100ths of a second faster, and the last lap 14/1000ths of a second as Balázs Remeniek there moves himself past Kevin Ellis Jr. to put himself in the 17th place on track. Nice little battle going on there, freeway battle with Balázs Remeniek, Kevin Ellis Jr. and Stephen Michaels, 17, 18, 19.
Here they go now. Very close. Look at Pakala. Pakala needs to solve his qualifying issues. He shouldn't be all the way down in P20 ever on a World Championship grid. He's got the pace for race wins, as we've seen in the past. Been a couple of years since that, though. Here he comes now. DRS open. Flap open on Stephen Michaels. Up the inside here through the back straight. Is he going to make the move in the braking zone? Michaels fights for it in that Vortex sim racing car. And good start from Stephen Michaels. And Olli Pakala is under attack from the Greek man, Pascal Sturgis.
Yeah, so you can see how it flip-flops around really quickly as Martin Kroenke goes purple once again, 124.414. Gergis there in the number 41 core sim racing machine. This is going to be very interesting in towards turn number 1 now, because I just saw that Stephen Michaels had a very slippery exit to the final corner, the Parabolica, as Olli Pakala will move himself into 19th place. easily there in towards that first corner. You've also got Kevin Ellis Jr. just switching places with Balas Remniak. We've got the two drivers there of, that is Remniak turned around. That was on the exit, and as a consequence of that, we had ourselves the driver of Ollie Pakala involved as well in towards that first chicane. Replay coming up. Balas Remniak then into that first chicane. He was offline, and Ollie just tagged him a little bit. Up and over almost went Balas Remniak. 3 drivers involved. You had the core sim racing machine involved in that one as well, Johnny.
Wow, so just tripping over each other there were Pakala and Remniak. I think Pakala just gave him a slight tap. Shouldn't be that dramatic though with the amount of force that Pakala hit him, but the end result, as you saw, was much more dramatic than it should have been. But anyway, they continue unscathed. Hopefully Pakala doesn't have too much damage. The same for Remniak, because they were having good races at that point.
They were, and there's a look down at your mid-pack, by the way. We've been spending a lot of attention there because there's been a lot of battles going on early on. You've got this nice little freeway battle going on. Gergis versus Jensen versus Price. That one is for P22, 3 and 4. And it was Isaac Price, I believe, the driver who was involved a little bit in that incident. I just want to have a look on board of Isaac Price and see whether there's any damage to that race car. We can't really see it from that angle. No, it looks like that Isaac Price is okay for the moment. Holtzman versus Backham is a new battle that's developing, as Holtzman right now having himself a bit of a recovery drive, shall we say.
Yep, definitely is from his starting position. And Backham made his way through a few laps ago. Patrick Holtzman trying to do the same to Mack. These are two promising talents in sim racing. And Holtzman, remember, this is his second race with his new team too, and his 4th team in the past 3 years of sim racing. So hopefully this home for Patrick Holtzman is ideal for his personality and his goals and sort of strategy to achieve in sim racing.
Chembalet Bassi moves himself up into 9th place, just getting himself past the driver of David Akor. Let's get ourselves a second look at that one on board with Chembalet Bassi, as he came from a long way back of David Akor. Akor must have had, yeah, he did. He had a huge slide there for the exit of the Ascari chicane. That is what allowed Bullet Bassi to get past. So it's all action. This track does look to be a little bit slippy here today, as here's another look then, this time from on board of the core, and a good job there keeping that one out of those green tire barriers that line the outside of the racetrack.
Yeah, good stuff there. And we just had word that Mergarfilio also retired from the event, so it looked like, anyway, maybe some technical issues for him, but not good for him. And top 10 separated by 10 seconds too. So field not spread out as you'd expect. Now, Kroenke hasn't made his way up to De Jong yet in DRS zone, Will. Is that something that we should be concerned about? Because they're matching on lap time right now. Is Kroenke going to allow Mitchell to take a win?
Not really. I think the issue is that Kroenke's been trying his hardest to break Hutu. That last lap wasn't actually very good for Martin Kroenke. He would close it up to about 1.1 seconds. And there's a look. Lap number 9, he lost 0.2 of a second. And that's what allowed Gregor Hutu to close back in a little bit. You'll see there from the graphic as we switch it around, Hutu closed up 0.1 of a second. Your top 3 are very close. The difficulty is, as Kroenke gets into DRS range, it's going to bring those top 3 together, and then it's going to be a case of who's going to be the best driver on pit stops. As Kroenke again there, 0.1 of a second faster than Mitchell de Jong. At a track like this, when everyone is so close together, Johnny, you have got to just work the little minutiae gaps here. You can't just go looking for a second, because a second will take 7-8 laps to get there.
Yeah, in strategy, you're definitely going to be one-stopping. Just not in these conditions, and the fact that you're at Monza, we saw Enzo Benito here 2 years ago try a 2-stop, and he had the pace, but it's just not going to work in the end. On paper, it really just isn't going to work on pace. It's not quick enough, so it's about that one pit stop phase. Have you practiced your pit entry? The braking zone here. I always mention this story. I've overtaken 2 cars into a braking zone into the pit entry. That's incredible. I don't understand how I did it that day, but if you practice your pit lane entry, you'll have the confidence on the rest of the field, and that could be the 2.5 you need to gain a few positions here. For the likes of Marti Piatella, that's the difference between P11 right now and the difference between P8 of Patrick Holtzman.
Jamie Fluke versus Stephen Michaels. That is going on for 18th place on track. Jamie Fluke in the Apex Racing UK machine. Vortex Sim Racing's Stephen Michaels in the 19th place. They have been able to pull out a little bit of a gap now over Tomasz Meglek, who goes very, very wide there on the exit of the Variante Ascari. We'll get ourselves a second look at that one because he was about to go off-roading, really pushed wide on the exit of that chicane complex. You see that car just getting a twitch on acceleration. Lucky for him there is there's the opportunity to just cut across where the junior layout merges with the main portion of the track. As we've also had ourselves close battles going on throughout your entire field, even at the rear. You've got Yao Vaz, Alex Bergeron. Bergeron recovering after making positions early and then slipping back through to a spin on the lap number 1. A lot of dust being kicked up down at the second chicane as well. That will impact on the ability for people to do overtakes a little bit later on in this event. A lot of drivers kicking up dust also on the exit of both Lesmo number 1 and Lesmo number 2. David Accor in 10th place. Marti Piatella in 11th place. Piatella, Coanda Simsport, that driver in Coanda, well, we don't often talk too much about him. Then we look at the end of the race and goes, oh, Piatella, nice job by him.
Yeah, he's always underrated, I think. Actually, I think he's properly rated now, in my opinion, anyway, in my mind. I think we give him enough credit. He's very valuable to that team behind the scenes, and he's also not so bad on pace, you know. I think you put him on any other team, and a P10 is a great result, but because he's in Coanda, he's expected to win races. It's a different story with expectations. But regardless, he's in P10, and he's having a good race so far in DRS zone with Cem Bulakbasi in front.
Right, this is when this race gets interesting. It's now. Mitchell de Jong versus Martin Kroenke, just bubbling around DRS range. You can see it was in DRS range. It's just ticked over. It's a big lump over the curb there for Martin Kroenke, although that gap's come down as it's now down to about 2/3 of a second between those two drivers. Behind, Gregor Hutu is at the very, very edge of DRS range, and maybe these two Coanda cars might spend the next couple of laps working together to see, and the fact they have just broken that 1 second window over Gregor Hutu. As Kroenke catches de Jong, they are now just slowly pulling out of DRS range from Gregor Hutu, and this is a critical stage of this motor race, because if these guys can do that for the next 3 or 4 laps, then we will once again be talking about maybe Coanda getting a 1-2 here this afternoon. Tactical racing, but this isn't team orders. This isn't doing anything wrong. This is just two Coanda cars making the best use of the track that they've got in front of them right now.
Now the team will be talking to each other, trying to make sure they do the best thing possible for both of them. If they do want a position swap, as you said, they'll want to do it later, and it won't be deliberate. Like, they'll allow them to fight as long as Hutu's within a distance behind, as Bonnehaus may have got past Daniel Vensing behind for P5. He breaks his way into the top 5 himself, Bono. So good stuff from him as they head towards the second chicane. Kroenke slowed down through the second chicane, and Hutu's gone through.
Oh, my word.
Kroenke's, oh, goodness me. Technical issues for Kroenke. And now Hutu goes past. Berryman is in 4th. He's not close to Martin, but there you go, Will. Dramatic stuff here on lap 15.
Yeah, we were having a look then at the replay on a house and Daniel Wernting. So let's have a look at this one then for Martin Kroenke. On board of him, down towards the second chicane. And he just gets there, you know, horrible run through that chicane. Gets a slowdown penalty as a consequence of that one as well. Martin Kroenke down into 3rd place, and all of that hard work has just been undone then for Coanda, for Martin Kroenke. One of those very rare times you talk about Martin Kroenke being on the back foot, and we will certainly remember that one at the end of this motor race, if this is going to be the reason why Martin Kroenke doesn't win here today. Marti Piatella versus Cem Bulakbasi. That is 7/10 of a second right now. Behind Cem Bulakbasi is David Accor. That is 5/10 of a second.
Yeah, it's a very close battle throughout the field, but the pit window opens on lap 20. That's the earliest you should really be making a pit stop here on your one-stop strategy. So definitely nobody two-stopping at this stage, unless somebody comes in this lap to surprise us. But lap 20, basically, you'll see the back end of the order start to pit. If a leader pits early, they'll get stuck in traffic. So that's what they need to do there. Here they go now through Lesmo 2. Berryman goes through unscathed. The dust wheel, though, kicking up on the racetrack. It could become an issue again.
It could do, as this race will continue. Alex Bergeron versus Yao Vaz. That is for 23rd place. Bergeron not able to close up to Yao Vaz through Curva Grande and then into that second chicane. Hey, it's Monza. Race car, race car, race car. Wait, there's one more. Race car. And actually, that was Jorge Montana is going a little bit wide down the exit of that second chicane here. You can also buy that one on the RaceSpotTV shop, RaceSpot.tv/shop. Matt Backen, Daniel Arndt Wernsing then. Wernsing falling back a little bit all of a sudden as we go on board with Matt Backen. Aim towards that first chicane, the very ante retofilio, as Matt Backen, P number 7 for Coanda right now, has got the opportunity, in my opinion, to fight for a top 5 here.
He does. He definitely does. He's done it in the past. He can do it again for sure. And he just has to make sure he has a steady right foot coming out of the corner. Here's the second chicane. Braking under the bridge. Don't skip that first chicane. You'll get a slow down penalty and you'll lose a couple seconds. Steady right foot, as I said, on the exit. A lot of drivers will be tail happy through Lesmo 1. You can't see the exit of the corner wheel through Lesmo 1 because the wall is so close to the inside of the racetrack. It's so difficult through that corner, but you trust that you'll clip the late apex there and ease the car into that complex. Yeah,
we're also having a look at Patrick Holtzman versus Martin Piatella versus Cem Bullock-Bassi, as Martin Kroenke is back now within the 1 second DRS window of Gregor Houtu, and then just loses it as I talk about that. Very loose through the Curva Parabolica, and that's the issue that Mitchell de Jong had actually as he did his qualification lap here, which put him 27/1000 behind Peter Berryman. Movers and shakers in this event so far. The top 3 all at one place. Reason for that is because Peter Berryman has fallen down 3 spots here today. Bono House is up 2, Backen is up 2 places. Holtzman is another big loser inside your top 10. He is joining Peter Berryman as your biggest loser, as Martin Piatella is up 8 places, Cem Bullock-Bassi up 4. Your biggest winner of the day overall, that is the driver of Yuta Saito, up 17 places in this 35 car field. He now runs in the 14th spot, and actually no one around him right now. He's 3 seconds behind his own teammate Kazuki Umeshima.
Yeah, and we may have had Holtzman spin around at turn 1. He's had an incident, and that, yep, definitely was at turn 1 for Patrick Holtzman. So out of the top 10, because of that, he was running in front of Cem Bullock-Bassi, the Turkish driver. And I'm not sure what's happened to Patrick. He just can't get a break in this series.
He can't. He really can't, unfortunately. These guys are having some fantastic battles. It will calm down a bit more after pit stops in some cases. Olli Pakala is right now scrapping with Yoni Tormala as Pakala just really messes up his entry into the Ascari chicane. That's cost him about half a second there. Olli Pakala, of course, one of those drivers using virtual reality, running with the Oculus Rift, and that gives him a very different racing experience to many of the other drivers in this field here today. He's done a number of interviews about this as well, as Daniel Arndt Wernsing will lose the position to Matt Backen. That puts Wernsing down into 7th and Backen up into the 6th position. Also worth noting, Kroenke now is within 0.6 of a second of Gregor Houtu.
And pit stops as well. Jussi Akala in the pit lane. Holtzman as well after his spin. So good timing for Holtzman. And this is early as well. The pit window only opens on lap 20. So these guys pitting a lap earlier than the window, trying to break free and undercut a few of the drivers in front. By the way, Alexei Jussi Akala is having a great event, and this is a good pit stop for him. Unless he's had a penalty for some reason.
Out and away he comes then He has a 7.3 second pit stop, so it looks like maybe he's just had to take a front wing or something, because a tyre stop normally is about 4 seconds here. Holtzman out and away in 3.9 seconds. It's now going to be very interesting to see what will happen to Kroenke and Hutu as that pit window, yes, it's technically open, but realistically, drivers won't be in for another 3 to 4 laps. You can see that dirty air just pushing Kroenke a little bit wide. Gap 4 tenths of a second as they come past the stripe. Kroenke not actually using that full draft effect towards turn number 1, but now gets all that toe. It's almost as if he wanted to stay behind Gregor Hutu there.
Yeah, possibly. Who knows? I would personally, if I was Hutu, I would want Kroenke to pass me, and as soon as he passes me, I would pit. And he's got a chance here as well, because you want Kroenke to lose as much time as possible. Hutu, though, has the straight line speed here out of the Curva Grande. Here they go to the Della Roggia. Nice and simple for the both of them through that second chicane, although different lines for both of them, Will, but they both make it through with the same amount of pace.
They do, as Martin Kroenke remains in that third place. They are losing time as well to Mitchell de Jong, and maybe my tactical brain going on here, this is also one of those things that Martin Kroenke is trying to do. Slow Hutu down a little bit, give Mitchell de Jong as big enough a window as possible, because that way if Kroenke can leapfrog Hutu in pit stops, then it's going to make this race very interesting between those two co-out drivers at the end of this motor race. Wensing, by the way, has already lost 1 second to Matt Backen. Jamie Fluke versus Stephen Michaels continues for 16th place. Only really had 3 drivers make legitimate pit stops here today. They are Patrick Holtzman, Alexei Yusiakola and Ilkka Happala. This time, are we going to see Kroenke get in the draft? Yes, he is actually. That DRS flap is now wide open, and it should be easy. Thank you very much. Kroenke back up into second place, into the first chicane. I got the feeling there that Kroenke didn't want to make a half effort. He wanted to make sure he got cleanly past before the braking zone, which is why he didn't make that pass the lap previous when he had a bit of a dodgy run out of Curva Parabolica.
Yeah, good point. He didn't want to make any, and he didn't want to make a mockery of it too, because his race will be over. He hasn't sealed the championship, obviously. It's only been 4 rounds so far, as Saito enters the pit lane, a couple other drivers too. Now, example for all you kids out there, Holtzman was about 10 car lengths behind Alexei Yusiakola earlier when they were pitting, but when they hit the pit entry line, they were alongside each other. And that's the difference between practicing pit entry and hitting your marker compared to not doing it, as Saito out and away, and he's now in a clear gap for P17. So the engineers for de Jong, Kroenke, Hutu will be waiting for that gap to open up on the racetrack where they won't be held up by traffic, and then they'll pit as soon as that gap opens. Yeah, that's a really important part of the World Championship Series. You do not want to come out in dirty air, and it's one of the reasons why, even though a 2-stopper might be faster on paper quite often, the top drivers will not take the risk, and they'll do a 1-stopper instead, because it gives them the opportunity to build up the ability to come out in clean air. Hutu already 2/3 of a second behind Martin Kroenke. Ilkka Happala versus Kazuki Umeshima. Both have pitted. Umeshima's able to go past because Umeshima's pit stop was 2 seconds faster there, Johnny. Hey, that makes a huge difference, pit stop phase. As a few other drivers now entering their box. Piatella in. Who's in front of Piatella? Is that Wensing? It is.
Yeah.
So Wensing also in. Now this is important. If Daniel Wensing gets himself back past Bonahas or even possibly Peter Berryman, depending on when those drivers pit. But Piatella's had a good stop. Very quick. The same for Daniel.
Yeah. 3.8 second pit stop there for Daniel Wensing. 4 seconds for Martin Piatella. 1/10 of a second mean quite a bit here. They both just come out ahead of Chen Bullock Bassi in the number 74 machine, that core sim racing car. And it's always so disappointing to know that you've made a pit stop, you've done all you could do, but then someone else comes out just ahead of you. As the 3 of them, their lane times were within 1/10 of a second of each other. In fact, you put Patrick Holtzman in that one as well. So plenty of pit stop drama happening here. We've had about half your field pit. No one inside your current top 10 has pitted, quite obviously, of course, because they are still out on track. I don't see anyone down pit road inside your top 10 though this time by. And this is why I said you've got the early pitters, you've got the late pitters, Johnny. You're more likely now to wait a few laps as David Accord does come in now in that 07 machine. It'll be a good few laps now until your top 2 or 3 drivers come in, because they want all the other drivers to pit first so they don't come out in that traffic.
Yep, definitely. Mac Backham in the pit lane, though. He's in the top 10. It was about to be a Bono. He was catching Bono Haas in front. Boy, that would have been some drama if they were in a fight together after all that's happened in the past few weeks. Here they come now out of the pit lane. Mac, they're clean air in P8. So there you go. Window open. If you're a leader and their tires feel bad, get into the pits. But I think at this point of the race, if De Jong feels like his tires are still good, he doesn't want to have... Because remember, if he pits now and Kroenke pits in 5 laps time, then Kroenke is going to be faster for every single lap for the rest of the race. So that's the important part, is you don't want to pit too early compared to your rivals.
Alexei Yusiakola just does the fastest lap of the motor race. So that is something else the other drivers are going to want to think about. As there is Peter Berryman running himself in 4th place, as we will have maybe more pit stops here. We've just lost our graphics here, so bear with us for about 5 seconds. Peter Berryman is on pit road this time by, so he's the latest driver to come down the lane, as we will get you an actual shot of him. There he is, coming down to make his one and only pit stop in that Apex Racing UK machine. Started on pole position as he just cycles it down into his box. He's got the front pit stall here, which actually in some cases at this track isn't the best one to have, because you've got to tilt that car or it's going to hit the wall on the pit exit, as Bonner House also pit 3.9 seconds.
Yeah, that's not good for Peter, unfortunately, but I think the benefit of having pole position overcomes that. At this stage anyway, Bono, where does he come out? He's behind Mac Backham. So Mac gains from the undercut. So he forced the Team Redline driver of Bono Haas to pit, and now Mac Backham is in front. Piatella and Wensing alongside each other here out of the Rettifilio.
Yep, so there is Wensing, and there is Piatella. They go side by side. And look at that one as they come underneath the bridge, and it is going to be Martin Piatella who wins that battle for the moment. Lap number 24 of 53 here in the 5th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, and there are your top 8 down the bottom of your screen. De Jong from Kroenke from Hutu, there are your top 3. They are within 4 seconds of each other. Then it's a good 26 seconds back to Yoni Tormala, who runs in 4th place. Peter Berryman in 5th, Matt Backham 6th, Bonner House, Marty Piatella. They are your top 8. But Peter Berryman has made himself a pit stop already in this event, as has Bono House in 7th. De Jong, Kroenke, Hutu, Tormala, Backham, Piatella, Wensing, Chembullet Bassi. They are within your top 10 as it stands. As Kroenke versus De Jong is exactly 3 seconds. The thing for Kroenke is, though, he isn't quite able to get rid of Gregor Hutu behind him. He's still within that 1 second draft range.
No, good spot. He is. Hutu's got DRS too. I've always said Hutu's race pace is pretty good, and he's only 3.5 seconds from the lead. So if you think about it, take away Kroenke's mistake, De Jong didn't make that mistake. Hutu's only 3.5 seconds away from Mitchell De Jong, who's a multiple race winner in this series. He's searching for his first one in 2017 at least. Let's see if he can get it. De Jong's last win anyway came at Kota, the final round of 2015. Didn't win last season in 2016, so it's been a while for him. And what about Olli Pakala? He hasn't won since 2014, so he's in a bit of a drought too in that Team Redline car, but still some good scraps going on here. You know what, if Kroenke still leads this race with 1 lap to go, we should force all the drivers to take to the grid on the final lap and have a 1-lap sprint to the flag from there and see if anyone can beat Kroenke. But hopefully right now De Jong stays in front, because the fans will want to see a different winner.
On board with Chembullet Bassi in the Core Sim Racing number 74 machine versus Daniel Arndt Wensing in the number 4 Radicals Online car as they exit the curve of Parabolica towards the stripe. DRS flap will be open for Cembulik Bassi. He should have some speed. Actually, no, he doesn't. Despite DRS flap, in fact, no, Wenting has got the DRS flap open himself, so he's able to close up to the driver of Martin Piatella ahead of him right now. So that's the three-way battle we've got going on for P8, 9, and 10 on track. Olli Pakila goes purple after his pit stop. That's another message, if you are Team Redline, to Gregor Hutu, that two of your teammates have gone purple over the last few laps. And we talk about that, actually. Gregor Hutu has slipped back this lap. He's now 1.2 seconds behind Martin Kroenke. So DRS is gone. I expect Hutu in. He is on towards pit road. There's one driver ahead of him, but thankfully he was just far enough ahead that there wasn't any issue for Hutu as he comes on towards pit road. Hutu in exactly at the halfway point of this race.
And I think Hutu's pace could be enough with the undercut based on Pakila's fastest lap of the race with a 23.9. I think Hutu with the undercut here could jump ahead of Martin Kroenke. Yeah, De Jong in front's in as well. He has to tilt his car though, and that's compromised a bit of time for him. But the undercut here is important. Quick pit stop for the both of them. Let's see where Kroenke ends up. He has to pit this lap.
29 seconds on the lane for Gregor Hutu, 3.9 second pit stop, 29.3 for Mitchell de Jong, 4-second pit stop, so pretty much nothing to choose between the two of them. And Mitchell de Jong now does pull back out on track. And notice as well, there was clean air ahead of Gregor Hutu. Martin Kroenke heading himself under the bridge. That's the oval on top there as they come into the Variante Ascari. For the 27th time, Kroenke very loose there for the Ascari. He's pushing it so hard. He probably lost himself 0.3 of a second in that corner alone. But now it's down almost surely on towards pit road for Martin Kroenke. Taking a tight entry through the corner, unwinding that wheel. Now you should see him darting to the right-hand side. You do see him darting to the right-hand side. So here does come Martin Kroenke on towards pit road. And it is imperative for Martin Kroenke to come out ahead of Gregor Hutu. If he wants to win this motor race, he cannot deal with having to pass the 5-time world champion for the 3rd time here today. He's got to set his sights now on the driver of Mitchell de Jong, who will lead this motor race in exactly 5 seconds time. Kroenke out and away. De Jong will go past your screen now. Let's keep an eye out then. Where's Gregor Hutu? It is going to be close between the two of them. No, it's not. It's not going to be close at all by the looks of it, because Kroenke is indeed ahead, and he's ahead by about half a second. But there is the driver of Joni Tamada, who they both need to get past here, and I'm sure Kroenke will want to do that quickly. He's going to head himself on the outside of Curva Grande as they work themselves underneath the bridge. He does that, and this is now the perfect opportunity for Kroenke to pull away, because Tamada is going to be slower through the Lesmo section of the track, and that is going to hold up Gregor Hutu. This isn't blue flags. This is actually for track position here, Johnny.
Yeah, he doesn't have to go past, and that's going to compromise Hutu's exit here at a Lesmo 2. Doesn't have a good exit at all, but he will have DRS to help aid him make a move into the Ascari chicane. Tomla's not going to move out of the way. Look at that. Hutu has to stay in the braking zone. He's losing 10th by 10th here, corner by corner for the Finn.
This is payback from Sebring last year.
Yeah, possibly. Oh, it's good. Let's not look into that politics. But Tomla, if he doesn't pit this lap, Hutu's going to have to make the move across the main straight, obviously. They head through the Parabolica. I do want to see, though.
He doesn't come in.
No. Go make the move, Gregor.
Here he comes then, down to the inside. He will have it easy with DRS wide open there for Gregor Hutu as he is back up into 3rd place. But the most important thing is Hutu did start the last lap when he came out of pit, when Kroenke came out of pit road in DRS range. But Gregor Hutu just lost himself, I would say, about 0.6 of a second, being held up behind Joni Tamada. And again, Tamada didn't have to allow him past. That was an actual battle for position, because the number 51 in iRacing car hasn't yet made a pit stop. So no blue flag rules in operation. It's the responsibility of Gregor Hutu to find a way past. There is no reason why Joni Tamada has to move himself out of the way.
Yeah, and Tomla's in a race of his own too. He still has to fight for positions later on. and he still has to fight for some championship points. That all goes to the prize pool at the end of the season, depending on where they finish. And the most important thing is that Kroenke now, his Pirelli tires are 1 lap fresher than both his teammate De Jong and Gregor Hutu behind, his 2 rivals in this race, going for the win.
Yeah, there are your top 8 then after pit stops have been scored complete. It's Mitchell De Jong leading by 3 seconds over Martin Kroenke. Hutu third as De Jong goes purple, 123.975. First driver into the 123 range. Kroenke second place, Hutu third, Tamada fourth, Berriman, Backham, House and Piatella round out your top 8. We'll step aside for a brief moment here on RaceSpotTV, ladies and gentlemen. We'll come back and we'll talk about that battle for the race lead. But as we take you side by side, enjoy Peter Berriman versus Mac Backham. We'll be right back.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to RaceSpotTV. Kevin Ellis Jr. versus Kazuki Umeshima. That's the battle going on right now for the 16th place on track. And well, Johnny, we can't forget about these battles that are going on in your mid-pack here today. Bono House has just moved himself past the driver of Yoni Tamada. Tamada hasn't pitted yet. We'll try and work that one out in a moment's time. But Kazuki Umeshima versus Kevin Ellis Jr., that one is still going on for P number 16.
Ellis Jr., very, very young. He's just gaining as much experience as he can in the championship in that Apex Academy car. They're slowly moving out of the academy to full teams now, because Bergeron moved obviously to his new team. Umeshima, though, hasn't had the best of races. Started in the top 10, all the way down in 17th. We know what's happened to Holtzman with a spin here and there and some bad moments in this event. He got turned around earlier, and now he's all the way down in 14th. So those two guys started out inside the top 10. They're currently out in the teens.
There you also saw Isaac Price moving himself past Tomo Meglic. That is for the 21st position on track. And Marcus Jensen versus Tomo Meglic is one now that is going on. Meglic has been in all forms of battles here today, currently running P22.
Yep, he is, Tomo. More than experienced in this World Championship Grand Prix Series grid. And he's got Isaac Price in front of him. New team for Isaac Price this season in Core Sim Racing. We've always been associating him with Inex. And look at the battle for P4 and 5 here. Backham versus Berryman.
Backham's through.
Good stuff from Mac Backham there. Just sailed past Berryman on the main straight. And that's, well, something to add to Berryman's just depression list on this race, starting from pole position.
I wouldn't call it that. I mean, quite simply, he's finishing top 5 in a car that we know has not had the best race pace. And you look at the fact that Koana's got 3 cars inside your top 4 shows that they've really got this track figured out. Actually, for Peter Berryman, he's having a sterling job here.
He is doing a sterling job, but in terms of expectations, if you can put a car up on pole, that means you're faster than everybody else. So you've got to figure out now how you can get that Apex car
you're the fastest of everyone in 1 lap.
One lap, yeah, exactly. No, so what I'm saying is, is that you now have to figure out how to do it in a race. So they've got the potential to do it. It's whether or not they can complete that is a different story. I know I'm a big fan of Michael Dinkel, who I think is one of the smartest drivers on this grid. And he's not in the race anymore, got caught up in some first lap incidents. But with the work he does for that team, along with their driver lineup, I think they can figure out why, for example, Berryman's gone from 1st to 5th. And you know, Graham Carroll always says he's not going to settle for anything less than a win this season. I think it's definitely possible for this team, but definitely not at this stage. 9.4 seconds off from the Coanda cars is very good, but it's not enough. You can't be satisfied with that, but you can be pleased.
Daniel Worthington, though, versus Shembel Bassi. That one's still going on for 9th place on track between the Radicals Online Machine and Core Sim Racing. 6-ish tenths of a second separating those drivers as they work themselves down into that second chicane. As you see some of the drivers cycling through behind. That's David Akora, Alexi Yusiakola, Yuta Saito versus Ollie Pakula. Pakula again is one of those drivers who has struggled all season long with with qualifying even. He's not done anything in commentary so far this year. But Ollie Pakula, he's struggled a little bit with qualifying, and as a consequence of that, he is running in that 14th place. Been in the wars a little bit as well, as behind further Marcus Jensen versus Tomer Meglik. It does look as though Meglik has the better of that one for the time being. Kazuki Umeshima versus Kevin Ellis Jr. That one is going on. That is for 16th place. Let's have a look at the lap times. Seems to be 1 lap the Radicals car's faster. Next lap the Apex Racing Academy car's faster. Flip it around, flip it around.
Yeah, good stuff. I think I just saw Backham and Berryman going through somebody. It might have been a lap car, though. That was Jorge Montañez, indeed. So in a 27th position. Stat of the day, because, Will, I know you like to really say I'm the stats guy, even though I'm not. Stat of the day is that Kroenke in 2016 and 17 has won every single race from pole position. And if he doesn't get the win today, that will still continue. I think when you allow him to start from first and you let him run away with the lead in clean air, he's definitely the best driver on the grid so far. But what I want to ask you, Will, is if for the next 5 years you had to stick with 2 drivers on the grid right now from this current grid and you had to use them for the next 5 years, no changes, who would be the 2 that you'd pick?
I'll tell you after the race.
Oh. Is there some politics to that?
No, I just want to have the chance to think about it, shall we say.
Okay.
Because more importantly at this stage, arguably, is the fact that Kroenke is legitimately closing in on Mitchell de Jong. And I say the word legitimately because Mitchell de Jong is clearly the 2nd fastest driver on track right now. He did a bit of a bad lap that last time by, 124.225. But Martin Kroenke is legitimately going purple. This isn't one of those circumstances where they're just trying to back up Mitchell de Jong into Martin Kroenke. These two have been setting the 2 fastest laps on track. I would argue that partially you have to do that because Hutu is only 2 seconds behind Martin Kroenke right now, so you can't just allow Kroenke to go past.
No, definitely not. He's only 3.7 away from the lead too. Not surprising, I've said it all season, Hutu has the pace to win a race, and if he qualified on the front row, even on pole, would Hutu still be in the lead at this point? That's the other question. As the dust kicks up around the racetrack, you'll see the racing line start to darken as well. That's the rubber going in as usual with iRacing's dynamic track coming into play. Good implementation with that too. But Berryman 3/10 behind Mac Backham for P4. This is a good little scrap between these two, the 2 young men. just going for some nice, not a podium, but some good points here.
Yeah, Bakken versus Berryman is still very close. It's 3/10 of a second on the exit of the Variante Ascari down towards Curva Parabolica once again as Peter Berryman, he's gonna, I think the issue is for that car, we're gonna get a very good look at it now on the exit of the Curva Parabolica. Having a look at the top line speeds here for those two cars. Up to 220 miles an hour, and actually, take that back, he's easily past there. It's Peter Berryman past Matt Bakken, but that was with DRS and ERS open. I think the issue is that between the two cars, I think Commander's got the greatest grunt of the two. We're going to get that downforce level perfectly fixed. I think Berryman, you have seen a couple of occasions today, he has been getting quite a bit of understeer, and when you want to stay as close to the car behind as possible to make maximum use of that DRS and that ERS, I think that's partially the reason why he's been let down a little bit today.
Yeah, that's true. And people always, they always say, like, if there's dirty air, why don't you just, for example, add a bit of front downforce or something like that? But then the front end is just so unstable when you steer into a corner. You turn into a corner and it feels like there's no front end grip at all. So there's a limit to it. Dirty air is the worst feeling in the world. And you don't want to keep steering into dirty air either, because you'll just wear the tires out. You're going to understeer even more. So it's about managing the loads on the front too. It's very complex in a way, but they go through the Parabolica. Berryman runs wide through there. Of course, he's probably going to get away with it because we have no gravel in the runoff. It's all turned into tarmac, thanks to Mr. Who. I don't know.
Well, FIA, Bernie, same difference, doesn't matter. Peter Berryman, though, does maintain that fourth place for the moment. Behind, you have still got going on Chemba Bassi versus Daniel Arndt-Wensing, but I had half an eye on Yuta Saito versus Ollie Pakula. The reason for that is last time by Pakula was a little bit faster, but this time by, actually no, Yuta Saito was very slow, and that allowed Ollie Pakula, by the looks of it, to find a way through. So Pakula now up into 13th place. Kevin Jr. versus Kazuki Umeshima. That one carries on in towards turn number one. And Umeshima, that Radicals car really doesn't seem to have that much straight line grunt, because in a straight line down the front straight away, he gained practically nothing.
Yeah, that's true. So he's struggling right now. I know the red line cars of Yusiakula and Pakula, as you just mentioned, they're in 12th and 13th. So maybe those two will start to work together if Ollie creeps in on his teammate. But most importantly, Kronke, DRS zone for Mitchell de Jong in front for P1.
Yep, the gap is now below 1 second. So Martin Kronke now can release that DRS flap and try and find a way of closing up to his teammate. Now, there might not be team orders in Commander Sim Sport, but I'm sure there is a rule that every team has. Don't hit your teammate as the gap closes down to 2/3 of a second through the exit of the first chicane, the Variante Rettifilio. Now they come down to the Variante della Roggia as they see Kronke just staying behind. Remember what he did with Begahutu. If he wasn't able to find a way past, he would just get out of the draft and roll behind. We almost expect him to do that again as they exit Curva Parabolica if he's not within 0.3 of a second on corner exit. But de Jong just pushing up a little bit of gravel there on the exit of the first Lesmo through second Lesmo, again pushing up a little bit of gravel. Martin Kronke within 0.4 of a second. Is he going to try and make the move in towards the Variante Ascari? The answer is clearly going to be no. So now they work single file through that famous Ascari chicane. Right hand side of your track, that is where the junior layout comes back into play, as the oval at this point is running perpendicular to a track on the left hand side in towards that famous Curva Parabolica. They come then, and a look at the times between the two of them, exactly 0.4 of a second, just under 0.4 of a second. This could be Kronke's opportunity. DRS lap is going to be wide open. ERS is going to be engaged. Kronke looking for the race lead, and well, here becomes the story of 5 from 5 for Martin Kronke. It wasn't the case of de Jong really putting on a fight, as there is a slow car on the outside line through Curva Grande there. That is Balis Remniak just allowing some lap traffic to go past. But Martin Kronke to the front of the field, and de Jong didn't put up a fight, but that was a clean pass there.
Yep, good stuff from Martin. And they didn't lose too much time either, the both of them. 23.7 for Kroenke. Not the fastest lap of the race, I don't think, Will, but very, very quick from the German too with the DRS. 350 kilometers an hour, so plenty of straight line speed to overtake. And here he comes sailing in and creeping in with only 13 laps remaining. So 13 laps remaining for Martin. And he really took it to the last minute here. He got very close.
He did. We've still got Cembele Bassi versus Daniel Arndt Wensing. That is going on for 8th place on track. Radicals Online versus Core Sim Racing. Actually, you've got to give some credit to Core Sim Racing because Cembele Bassi is running inside that top 10 right now. Isaac Price has been involved in one issue here today in the other Core Sim Racing car. But Core Sim Racing running in P number 9, and also let's give some shout outs to Radicals Online also because they have got themselves Daniel Arndt Wensing in P number 8. They've got themselves Yuta Saito 14th, Kazuki Umeshima in 17th, and for Radicals this is arguably their best performance of the year.
Yep, definitely is. Good stuff from Radicals. And Wensing there, who it's not a surprise that he's in the top 10. We've seen him before as well. As they all continue anyway through this stage of the race. 12 laps remaining. If Kroenke, as I said before, I'm going to go back to my crazy theory. I'm going to challenge Bernie Eccleston. We should make everybody take to the grid on the final lap or 2 laps remaining and just have them all go for it on the final lap and see how that turns out. That'd be an interesting finish to the race. As they'll bottleneck into the first couple of chicanes anyway. That would be quite a dramatic championship if every race was settled that way. Somebody would be set with the task of taking out Martin for sure. Somebody would be like, hey, I'm going to sacrifice my result to do that. Don't do that though, ladies and gentlemen, please. I don't recommend that.
Kevin Ellis Jr. still running in P number 16. Kazuki Umeshima still running in P number 17. There at the bottom of your screen is the lap graphics between the two of them. And Umeshima closed up right into that dirty air of Kevin Ellis Jr. but then lost a tenth of a second that last time by as Umeshima, as they come down into the Variante Ascari again, just can't seem to get the grunt down the long straightaways. And here's a look again at the 2 straight line speeds, and let's see where they pick up to. 197, 200 miles an hour. It's 1 mile an hour faster, really, is what Umeshima is doing in towards Curva Parabolica. We get ourselves a nice little look again as they exit the final corner. That's Curva Parabolica and head towards the start-finish line again. And what's going to happen now is almost certainly Umeshima is going to prove me wrong and find a way of leapfrogging Kevin Ellis Jr. He does get a few miles an hour, 5 miles an hour advantage, but it's not enough, really, Johnny, for him to be able to find that way past cleanly.
No, can't make his way past, needs something extra. And, well, he's going to find it himself. He's going to figure it out himself.
And we're having a look a little bit further back down your field. In fact, let's run through some of your retirees. Michael Dinkel, Frank Shawhorse, and Fabrizio Gobbi were out at the very start of this lap. They didn't complete the first lap. Then you've got Antoine Hegelin, who was out of this event. Riley Preston, another bad result for Riley Preston. We haven't seen what happened to him, but he's been in the wars one more time. Mogarfilo is out. Balius Remniak is running, but he is down 2 laps right now. Drivers scored 1 lap down. They are Fakara, number 13 machine. Jorge Montanes on the 15 car. Alex Bergeron, new team of course, at number 6 machine. And Ilka Happala scored 1 lap down. And that is not where the Orion race team car of Ilka Happala wants to be. And this is a driver that always seems to be in and around that kind of top 15. As we've also got Cembele Bassi catching back up to the rear of Daniel Arndt Wensing.
Yeah, good stuff from Cembele Bassi. I think Wensing really needs every single position he can get, and every single point, every single tenth he can extract from these final 10 laps. The Monza race very quick, as we know, because the 5.8 kilometers each lap, I've mentioned this before as well earlier on, the 305-kilometer total distance of the Grand Prix distance that they cover over the 53 laps. They cover it so quickly because they only do 1:24s around here for race pace, and they drive so quickly on the straights, doing 340, 350 for Kroenke is he used all the ERS power he had along with the DRS to get past De Jong. De Jong's still in DRS range though, with Martin in front, so it's not game over for the lead.
No, but that's also really useful for Mitchell De Jong because it's allowing him to eke out a gap even further over Gregor Hutu. We're still sticking it with Chen Bullet Bassi versus Daniel Arndt-Wernsing for the moment because we talk about Radicals Online not necessarily having the best straight line speed advantage here today, with Bullet Bassi right behind Daniel Arndt-Wernsing 3/10 of a second through Curva Parabolica. This could give that Core Sim Racing car the opportunity to make the move, although he loses a lot of time through Curva Parabolica. That's almost a 1/10.5 of a second. Down towards the first chicane, they'll come again. 6 miles an hour the advantage with DRS and ERS, but it doesn't make it work for Chen Bullet Bassi. Let's go back then and talk about the situation with Mitchell De Jong versus Martin Kroenke versus Gregor Hutu. De Jong currently in second place. He is 9/10 of a second now behind Martin Kroenke. Last time by, he lost, he actually gained 1/10 of a second over Kroenke. But interestingly to know, the last few laps, Hutu has gained a total of 4/10 of a second over Mitchell De Jong. So, of course, De Jong wants to stay in that DRS range because he doesn't want, with less than 10 laps to go, to be hounded by the 5-time champion.
No, definitely not. So, and he's got 3.5 seconds to make up, though, over 10 laps. That's extremely difficult for Gregor. But you know what? I don't know if you should be pleased or happy or whether or not Gregor's going to show up for the interview at the end of the race. But 4 seconds, I think, is a great result for him. But when you think about it, he finished third, not really. So 4 seconds off from the win, but in third place. Is he actually going to win a race this season? That's the question. I think he will. I've mentioned it before. But let's see. If as long as Kroenke is in the event, it doesn't look like anybody's really going to stop him. And the closest we've come so far right now is his own teammate.
Well, it's interesting to note, of course, that Hutu has been passed 3 times here today by the driver of Martin Kroenke. They did have that side-by-side battle on lap number 1 down at Curva Grande, which gave Hutu the opportunity to go for the race lead as Bullet Bassi versus Wernsing. It continues for P8 and P number 9. As we've also got Kevin Ellis Jr. then versus Kazuki Umeshima, and it looks as though that Kazuki Umeshima has been able to find a way past Kevin Ellis Jr. again. Let's have a look at the replay. On board then with Kazuki Umeshima, and you can see there, finally he gets the grunt he wants. Everything wide open for him. 8th gear, first chicane, Kazuki Umeshima up into P number 16.
He pulled out at the last second there. It was very, very close. Dallas Jr. in front. Good stuff from Kazuki. Slides through Lesmo 1 now. And got the pace for maybe a top 15 finish. He might capitalize on Holtzman in front, who's had a race that's all over the place. And just trying to pick out some names here, which I'm pretty impressed by. Stephen Michaels back on the grid there in 19th. Not bad to finish in 19th, but definitely not where he wants to be. Speaking to him recently. And David Corpse, though, 11th. It's been a while since I've seen David Corpse up there in 11th place. Good stuff.
Yep. Marcus Jensen versus Isaac Price. It's 6/10 of a second. As actually Marcus Jensen, Apex Racing, is catching Isaac Price in that Core Sim Racing car. Of course, Isaac Price joining Core Sim Racing this year after being a stalwart at the Inex Racing team for many, many years. Marcus Jensen, Apex Racing UK machine, just a little bit wide there from Curva Parabolica. Couldn't get on the gas as early as he would have wanted to. And we've got Alexei Yusiakola in for a very long pit stop. Is this Yakola out of the race? It is Yakola out of the race. Let's get a replay of this one then. On board with Dracula. Something weird's happened to that car.
Not sure. Oh, it looks like the suspension's bent. Looks like he's had an accident somewhere. Because that car is, he struggled to steer that in a straight line, so he's definitely had an incident somewhere, either with another car or he's gone into the wall.
Yeah, okay, I think we found it. We're on board with Alexei Yusiakola first through Curva Grande. It actually happened down at the second chicane. So, There we are, first one. Oh, right over that sausage curb and then into the wall as a consequence. That is what broke the suspension then on Alexei Yusiakola's car. And well, that's the first driver who's gone over that sausage curb, who actually then paid the price for it. Here we are, another look from our aerial coverage brought to you by And One Design as Yakola. Well, that's a rare mistake by him.
Yeah, the car was still oscillating when he applied the throttle, so the suspension was still doing all the work there, and then it just wasn't stable as pretty much all the weight shifts to the rear, obviously, when you apply your right foot on that throttle pedal, and he's just gone into the wall. Car twitched, no room to save it, and it's just unfortunate for him. He hasn't raced since round 2, we know, since Sebring, and he missed Montreal, and he also missed Road America along with that, but unfortunately for him, not the best return for Alexei.
Still having a look at this Kevin Ellis Jr. versus Kazuki Umeshima battle that's gone on and on and on all race long, so it seems. Towards the front of your field, worth noting that Mitchell de Jong has pulled out a bit more now over Gregor Hutu. Gaps up to 3.7 seconds, and I think now he can start breathing a bit of a sigh of relief.
Yep, definitely can. And anybody else there? Yoni, though, I'm just trying to find out. My timing screen says Yoni hasn't made a pit stop yet. Yoni Tomala. Is that true? I don't think he has.
If it's not showing in your screens, it's not showing in mine either. And he is standing P number 10. What is he trying to do here?
I can't believe we missed that. I just expected him to just come into the pits and we're like, whatever, we'll track it later. But that sort of got into my head a little bit. If he does, he has to, well, if he finishes the race, he'll see his pace. 25-2, he has to defend from David Corpse. Ollie Packler behind. He's definitely not going to finish in the top 10. No way. With the pace he's got right now, it's going to get worse and worse for him.
He's only got 5 laps to go, though, and it's 1.2 seconds. He lost 0.3 of a second that last time by David Decor. At the very worst, he'll come home P11.
Yeah, very you're right. I take that back. Wow. No pit stop for Yoni Tormolo. And that, what disrespect by me, by the way. I was talking about 2 stops before. Get out of here. I deserve a fine for that. I should, Shannon Whitmore should give me a penalty or something from the commentary booth or from the steward's room just for even considering a 2-stop. When these guys can manage a 1-stop as easy as they have. Good stuff from Yoni Tormolo.
Urashima versus Ellis Jr. That one continues. I mean, just dabbing in and out of some of these midfield battles here today. And even though they're close, they're not always passing each other. It's good to check in on them once in a while, though. Matt Backham versus Peter Berryman. This is for P4 on track. And, well, let's have a look at the gaps. They're static, shall we say, at 8 tenths of a second. Backham seems to now be in a place where he can't quite get past Peter Berryman. And Berryman, P number 4, you know, is still very good finish by him. Think about this. It is going to be, as it stands, Coanda, Redline, Berryman in an Apex Racing UK machine. Then you've got yourselves Coanda, Redline, Coanda are your top 7. And at the front of your field, you've got multiple race winners and 6 world champions, 6 world championships ahead of Peter Berryman. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. This isn't a bad day for Peter Berryman.
It isn't. You're right. And only 2 teams have led a lap this season, and that's Coanda and Apex. Because we know that Kroenke, De Jong, Berryman, and Graham Carroll have only led laps this season, but Gregor Hutu hasn't led a single lap in the first 5 rounds so far. Hey, it could change. Who knows what's going to happen over the next 4 laps, but so far it's very unlikely he is. And leading the lap is not the big point, but those are bonus points that Gregor is missing out on, because you do get 1 bonus point for leading a lap. And at the same time, obviously 35 points for a win plus 3 for taking the victory, along with 1 for the fastest lap, for leading a lap, excuse me. You essentially get 39 for a win. So it looks like Kroenke again, another perfect score. He could take round 6 off and still lead the championship.
Or run round 6, maybe win round number 6, and probably get himself an even bigger advantage in the championship. Don't forget, though, ladies and gentlemen, this time next week, it is the greatest spectacle in sim racing. It is the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. And we here at RaceSpotTV do Indianapolis like no other. We've got more experience covering Indy 500s than any other sim racing broadcaster, and we've already done one this month of May. That was the Apex Infotech Indy Elite 500. Catch us next weekend at 8:15 p.m. GMT for the greatest spectacle in sim racing. Qualifying is one of the most fun but complicated things. 4 laps to get yourself into the field. And then, here's 2 facts that any person who's thinking about watching needs to know. No driver's ever won the iRacing Indy 500 Top Flip broadcasted race twice. And also, the race has never finished under yellow. So if you want racing action, catch it next Saturday here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacingLive. We've got ourselves 2 laps to go at the line. Martin Kroenke, Mitchell de Jong, Gregor Houtu. Well, Houtu's tried his best here today. I will give you that. And actually, I will say, holding off Martin Kroenke, that first lap, sterling job by him.
He did. He fought back. I think the start was abysmal from his standpoint. He just didn't get off the line, and Kroenke made it look worse because Martin had an immense start off the line. And then he had a clear braking zone in front, decided to stick it up the outside of Martin, got the position back. Brilliant fighting from Gregor Houtu, who I will admit, and I'll hang myself out to dry here, I did say that Houtu needed to be a bit more aggressive last year. And ever since I've said that, I think he sort of subliminally proved me wrong. The guy is an overall great talent, one of the best drivers on the grid. And you know what? All good things have to come to an end at some point. I don't think Gregor Houtu's end is now. I think you take Martin Kroenke out of the equation. Is Houtu still the best driver on the grid? Who knows?
In the meanwhile, though, it is still about who can break that Kroenke code, because here today, this was Martin Kroenke's worst qualifying of the season. He qualified 4th, and he didn't really look at any point that he had the opportunity to go for pole position. His teammate Mitchell de Jong did, but he ended up losing it down at Curva Parabolica on his fastest lap. De Jong has been very fast in this motor race, but when it came to it, it just seemed to me that Kroenke was the driver that could find the odd 10th and a half, 2 tenths when it mattered in the race. We have got lap traffic ahead of both Kroenke and de Jong. It'll be interesting to see, well, how quickly they get out of the way, or if they're fighting to try and stay on the lead lap, because we've got ourselves side by side actually going on here between Marcus Jensen and Yao Vaz. So these guys will probably want to get themselves 2 more laps here to see how they can settle the score. We're on board with Marcus Jensen, running himself in P number 21 versus Yao Vaz. They will come past the stripe. Marcus Jensen is going to look down to the inside. The white flag simultaneously comes out. There is 1 more lap to go here, as Marcus Jensen is now up into P number 20. But let's go on board then with Martin Kroenke as he works himself past lap traffic. And you've also got to give a big shout out there to Yao Vaz. The second he knew he lost that position, he just moved out of the way and allowed Martin Kroenke, your race leader, to go past. You never want to be the lap traffic that takes out the race leader. Martin Kroenke then, 4 rounds so far of the championship. He has been dominant. Here, round number 5, he had to race for it. He also made an issue down about a third of the way through this motor race that put him back down into 3rd place. But he was able to get himself past Gregor Houtu on 3 separate occasions here today. And that really is one way to stamp your authority. And let's not forget, this is the month of May. Historically, Gregor Houtu is better than anyone, and he has been trounced here today at Monza. Out of the Ascari chicane for the final time then. It's Martin Kroenke, it's Mitchell de Jong, then it's Gregor Houtu towards the line. Let's ride on board with Martin Kroenke. Here he is, past the start-finish line. Martin Kroenke wins the 5th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. He goes 5 for 5 this season. Gregor Houtu will round out your podium, but it's clearly a disappointing day for that lead team at Redline car. Peter Berriman is able to hold on from Mac Backham at the end by about a quarter of a second. Bono House will come home in P number 6, and then we look back to Marty Piatella coming home in 7th place. We talk always about how you just look up and there's Piatella inside your top 10. He's done it again. Daniel Arndt-Wernsing in 8th place, Chembel Bassi in 9th, then Yoni Tamala, who didn't pit all race long, runs out of fuel at the line by the looks of it and comes home in 12th. We'll get confirmation of that one in 1 second's time, but it looks as though at the very end, a little bit of heartbreak there for Yoni Tamala. Let's show you your final race result. And indeed, Tamala does lose 2 places at the very end of that one. We'll talk about that in a minute's time, because Martin Kroenke wins by 8/10 of a second over Commander Simsport teammate Mitchell de Jong. But don't let that gap fool you. Kroenke, again, was the dominant driver. Mitchell de Jong in 2nd place. Gregor Hutu rounds out your podium. Hutu came close to leading laps here today, but never got the opportunity to go for the race win. Peter Berriman started on pole, coming home in P number 4. Matt Backham in 5th. Bono House in 6th. Piatella, Daniel Arndt-Wernsing, Chembel Bassi, and David, of course, round out your top 10 as we cycle on back. And we'll show you here that you've got yourself Ollie Pakula in P number 11. Yoni Tamala runs out of fuel at the end in P number 12. Yuta Saito, 13th. 14th, Patrick Holtzman. 15th, Kazuki Omishima. Rest of the results up on your screen as we speak. And let's actually take you back then and have a look at what happened with Yoni Tamala at the very end of this motor race, as he just runs himself out of fuel coming to the start-finish line. He didn't pit all day today, and Johnny, that may well have been a part of the reason why, because he didn't actually slow down at any point. And here's a look as we run on board of him in towards, and he just runs out of fuel down at Curva Parabolica. And if he'd made a pit stop, arguably, he would have saved just enough fuel there to get himself past the straight.
Yeah, possibly. So, unfortunately, he finishes in 12th, no top 10 for him. But the battle on the final lap between Peter Berriman and Mac Backham, we saw in our behind-the-scenes coverage, was one of the best battles I've seen all season. And that's just amazing. So eventually Berriman came out on top. They were swapping positions here and there alongside each other most of the time. But those two in a great scrap. Hopefully we get a replay of that.
Well, we're having a look on board with Peter Berriman right now. This is the exit of the first chicane down towards Curva Grande. Berriman has the inside line for Curva Grande, but what that does is it means that Backham has the inside line into the second of the chicanes, the Variante della Roggia. They go side by side through there. Curb hopping, just barging wheels a little bit there. Underneath the trees, in towards Lesmo number 1. Round the outside, tries Matt Backham. Gets the position done, but then Peter Berriman, he's going to come back a little bit later on. Let's go on board then with Peter Berriman. That run down towards the Variante Ascari. Technically, there's a corner here, by the way. Curva del Surgelio. Then Variante Ascari, outside line for Peter Berriman. Managed to make that one stick. It's a bold man that tries to make the move on the outside of the Ascari and make it work, but Berriman does so. And then you see, in towards Curva Parabolica. Backham tries, he looks, but he cannot find a way to go past. I want to show you that little lunge there down towards the Variante Ascari one more time, because it is very rare when you see a driver overtake on the outside of the Variante Ascari. So here's a chance for us to see that right now, and you see he closes back from a good 2-3 car length, works the outside line, and he's not actually ahead. The two just make the slightest piece of contact, but Berriman is able to capitalize, and he takes 4th place away. Let's step aside for a few moments here, ladies and gentlemen, on RaceSpotTV. When we come back, it's time for driver interviews. This has been the 5th round of the championship. Post-race coverage coming up from the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch, jam it. Get ready. Dude, more heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yeah! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, sexy. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Are outside. We're behind you. Intel. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar.
He hit an outlap.
What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, 7 days from now, it is the greatest spectacle in sim racing, the 8th annual iRacing Indianapolis 500. Just 800 corners, 500 miles, 200 laps to sim racing immortality. And there are a number of drivers who can win it this year. No driver has ever won the race more than once. And it's always going to be fascinating to see which World Championship drivers make an appearance. Talking of that, we're here back then. Post-race coverage of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. And Martin Cronkey makes it 5 from 5. Here's a look at your top 10 one more time. And it is the driver of Martin Cronkey who wins. He also sets the fastest lap number 32 here. Mitchell de Jong second place, Gregor Hutu third, Berriman and Backham are P4 and 5, then Bono House, Marty Piatella, Daniel Wensing, Chen Bullet Bassi and Davy Decor. Martin Cronkey, welcome to iRacing Victory Lane. Again.
Oh, hello, thank you.
Okay, qualifying. Started P number 4, your teammate very close to pole position, just misses out. Were you expecting to be P4 in qualifying, or did you think you could have gone for pole?
I definitely could have gone for pole if it wasn't for mistakes in both laps. I messed up the first lap fairly bad in turn 1 already. That was already pretty bad. Then missed the entry for Ascari and also had a twitch on the exit of Ascari. So that lap was basically just a banker. Hopefully good enough that I qualify at all for the race. And for the second lap, it looked pretty good. 2 tenths up in turn 1. So yeah, reasonable. But then missed the curb a little bit too much. The first one in second chicane plus I think 0.3 of a second or so in that sector, and Ascari again on entry a little bad. So it was an improvement, but not good enough for pole, unfortunately.
Well, let's talk about your race itself then. Side by side with Gregor Hutu, lap number 1, then past Gregor Hutu, then an issue, then past Hutu again, then scrapping it out through the sequence of pit stops, eventually closing up to your teammate.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, at the start, I could get past Gregor, but he managed to get a good run on me again in the middle of turn 1. Sadly, he got passed at that point again, so had to pass him again at some point. Yeah, that issue, a little bit unfortunate. The sim just minimized for no reason in the middle of a chicane. I have no idea what exactly caused it, but essentially when I was having a picture again, the car was pointing towards the sky, and I was basically running over that second curb in the second chicane. That was unpleasant, but yeah, luckily it turned out to be still okay.
How hard was it to actually catch a teammate in that second stint?
Quite hard. I had to waste quite a lot of energy in terms of ERS battery state of charge to get anywhere close, but fortunately the DRS is quite strong here, and once you're in DRS range it's relatively easy to at least keep up and recharge the battery at the same time or do a pass. So yeah, it wasn't easy to get close, but once you're close it's not too bad. Okay, 5 from 5. That is in the books. Very quickly, I'm going to ask you the question. Are you going to be at Indy next week? I don't know. I have thought about it, but I don't know how much time I will have to actually prepare for it, and I think I probably need a lot of preparation because I honestly have no clue about oval racing or how to set up an IndyCar, and I think setups are probably a little bit of a problem here. So I don't know, maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Come talk to me after the race, we'll sort you out. However, next time out, Silverstone. And of course, Silverstone again is one of these tracks where it can go wrong very quickly. Crosswinds can also make it very difficult. Next question, 6 from 6, is it a possibility?
I wouldn't say it's not a possibility. It certainly could happen, but then again, I don't know. Others are strong at the track as well. Last year, it probably would have been second place if it wasn't for Gregor's misfortunes with the fuel. So, you don't know. I don't know. Anything could happen. I'll definitely try to make it 6 out of 6.
Have you ever indeed. Martin Kroenke coming home with the race victory. Before we let you go, Martin, who do you want to give a shout out to?
First of all, thanks to my teammates who have been working with me on the setup and have done a great job this time around again. Then also a huge thank you to the spotters that are doing the strategy for us, and of course also to our sponsors. First of all to Virtual Racing School, but also to Heusingfeld Engineering, to N1 Design, SimQuip, and Joel Wildhaming.
Thank you very much. That is Martin Kroenke coming home with race victory. Second place is teammate Mitchell de Jong, stood by with Jonathan Simon.
Thanks, Will. Sitting here with our second place finisher, Mitchell de Jong, teammate of Martin Kroenke, as you said. Mitchell, I have to ask, first of all, 2 checkered flag finishes this season. Obviously, you didn't take the checkered flag at Montreal. 2 second places for you, but a lot closer this round for you at Monza. So what's the difference now between yourself and a race victory?
Yeah, it was quite a good race, I'd say. I think the main difference here is I was able to get off to a good start and get around Peter pretty early on, whereas before we were, caught up in the battles and whatnot and at the last race. So yeah, it certainly was a little bit easier to pull out a gap, and Martin was struggling with a lot of misfortunes with the issue and other things. So it let me build up a little gap. And
yeah, Joni Tormela pulled off a zero-stop strategy today. I don't know if you saw that. He ran out of fuel across the line, so he probably should have finished 10th. Is that something you think could have worked from P1 even? Doing a zero-stop strategy, and the 25 to 30 seconds you lose, maybe Kroenke and Hutu wouldn't have caught you?
To be honest, I'm not really sure. Before the race and warm-up, with all the spotters and drivers, someone kind of jokingly said, so who will go for the zero stop? And I think we all thought it was a joke, but yeah, I had no idea who actually did it without stopping. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. Well, maybe you should consider it next time. If that's the only way to beat your teammate, possibly. You called him overpowered before, so I'm assuming maybe you could come up with a way to beat him. But Silverstone's coming up next, and last year you had some good fights there, good battles. I'm assuming this race, if you can stick the car on pole position again, are you going to find more improvement? Because you've improved every single race this season since you returned to the series.
I hope so. It was a bit tough for me in Montreal because I had, a couple days of practice and not driven the car for 6 months. And then I'm slowly getting more and more. Still, it's not ideal, I would say. I'm only getting like 3-4 days before a race. And I think it's still going to be the case for the rest of the season. So I think I just have to continue to practice when I can. And, we'll see. I think the second stint for me today was a little bit tough because I never tested like lighter fuel on new tires, so struggled a bit with kind of the feel of the car and whatnot. So maybe that made a big difference today in the race. But yeah, we just keep trying, and hopefully one day we can finally make the top step with the McLaren. That'd be nice.
Definitely would. There you go, Will. Mitchell de Jong, who hasn't won a race since Circuit of the Americas in 2015, but searching for that 4th career victory, possibly next round at Silverstone.
Yeah, indeed. So, de Jong had a good run here today, led the most laps, of course. 4th place goes to the driver of Peter Berriman, who, started on pole position, Peter. 1st career pole in the World Championship Grand Prix Series. That, I'm sure you were happy with.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised, to be honest. I mean, first lap was, I made a few mistakes and knew had a lot of time in the lap, and I checked to see how the lap was and saw I was quite close to the other guys up front. So yeah, the second lap I obviously nailed all the apexes and I chickened out, I guess, in the last corner, which is why I was kind of surprised. I was a bit afraid seeing, you know, the delta was so far green, and I was a bit afraid to get on the button in case I lost the rear and threw it away, so probably threw away maybe 600 instead of 10th in the final corner there. But yeah, definitely super pleased with pole position for sure.
Well, then let's talk about the race. You held on to the race lead for the first few laps, eventually got passed by Mitchell de Jong, but then a couple of bad laps here there, which basically put you behind Hutu and Kroenke. Let's talk about the pass from Hutu over yourself, because it looks like you just outbraked yourself into that first chicane.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, initially I wanted to see if I could stay ahead of the guys, and I quickly had to make a decision whether I wanted to fight or let them go, and I think the smart thing was to just let the guys go, to be honest. I would only end up burning out my battery, burning my tires out, and slowing myself down, so yeah, started just accepting that I was going to be passed eventually, and it was better just to take care of my own race. And yeah, the pass with Hutu, I locked up a front brake, so I was kind of lucky to keep it on track there. I was quite happy that Gregor was very aware of the fact that I went deep, and was quite smart to leave me a bit of space to let me you know, tuck my nose in behind and get back on track. But yeah, I think it was inevitable that those guys were going to pass me, and yeah, it was just a bit of taking care of my race to the end. That was it. But I was made to sweat with Mac at the end. He done very well. I think he pitted a lap before me and closed the gap up a lot, and after that it was just trying to stay ahead. But I think I had less downforce than Mac, and I was pulling away in the straights, but he had DRS, so he was keeping up in the straights. He was a bit quicker in the corners, and yeah, I was lucky to make the move back in the last lap, and yeah, happy with fourth.
You're happy with fourth place. Apex Racing UK still searching for their first win. Silverstone last year, of course, was one of those races that actually been for the last 2 years where you performed incredibly strongly. Chance for another pole position. And what do you think you guys need to do to piece together that final component to get yourself a victory?
I don't know. The top guys, same guys every race, seem to have something that we don't. Try many things. I think we've figured out qualifying, which is definitely a strong point. Last round we were up the top 5, could have pole position. This round, of course, I've obviously got pole position myself, but yeah, in the race, them guys just seem to have something we don't, and not quite sure yet.
Well, congratulations there. Fourth place for Peter Berham, Apex Racing UK. Before I let you go, Peter, anyone you want to give a shout out to from that organisation?
Yeah, just obviously a shout out to all the sponsors, all the teammates. We worked very hard for this race. A bit unfortunate that those guys maybe couldn't nail their lap in qualifying and be a bit further up the grid, but yeah, definitely a lot of positives, and just a shout out to anybody watching that knows me. And yeah, thanks very much. See you in 5 weeks.
See you in 5 weeks, and put that phone on silent. Matt Backham.
Sorry.
Matt Backham coming home, P number 5. Mac, well, you started 10th, finished 5th, had a fantastic battle with Peter Berham and others along the way. Talk us through your event from your perspective.
Yeah, that was one of the most enjoyable races I think I've done in the World Championship. Yeah, it was really tough from start to finish. I think Bono, Peter and I had a pretty much identical pace the whole race, so yeah, that was tough, just trying to manage my ERS as well as I could. Probably should have done a better job at it, because I ran out on the final lap, so Peter overtook me again. But yeah, in the end, a great race. I mean, I guess you can call me Mr. 5 now instead of Gregor, because I always seem to finish in P5 at the moment.
Well, next time out, of course, we head ourselves over to Silverstone. It's a long break between now and Silverstone. So, Indy? Yeah?
No, I'll be out of the country then, actually. And even if I was here, oval racing doesn't interest me all that much, I must say. So I would probably just end up in the spectator slots.
Not to worry. But Silverstone itself, again, it's one of those tracks that in some ways is a bit of a wild card because of those crosswinds, because how hard it is to sometimes find that balance between downforce, aerodynamic grip, mechanical grip, and overall straight line speed. It's a month until we head ourselves to Silverstone. What do you think Colander's got enough in the tank to resist any challenge from Redline from Apex?
Yeah, I mean, tough to say. We've been strong every race so far, especially Martin, so I don't expect him not to be up there. But you never know. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Silverstone, but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Mr. 5 then, Matt Backham coming home 5th place here this afternoon. And Johnny, well, it is a bit of a break now between here and the next race. And it will be on the 17th of June. And a lot's going on, however, in the meanwhile here on iRacing. Of course, we talked just a little bit about that race that's happening next weekend. But also, of course, we've got ourselves things like the Blancpain GT Series is back in 2 weeks' time. And they are on their 4th round of the championship, 90-minute race at Zolder.
Yeah, so lots of action coming up. It's a lot of races. The shorter calendar, though, is sort of now it's starting to make me a little bit sad. It's you're missing all these races that you used to have over this dry period. But at least the Indy's covering us. We've got the Blancpain as well, as you mentioned.
Le Mans.
Peak Antifreeze is always Le Mans. Did I mention Indy already? I can't remember, but it was just so many events going on. iRacing doing the stuff there. It's good for these drivers with the shorter schedule, but at the same time, I'm only just noticing it now. You don't want to remove the passion out of a great series that is the World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Well, instead of a summer break, we'll just call it a late spring break, shall we?
Yeah. Well, if only my job would give me a late spring break, the same way these drivers only get 4 less races this season, then I'd love to do that for the same amount of prize pool that they're getting. And anyway, we'll see how we go.
Well, that is, however, all we've got time for. Round number 5 of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. And once again, Martin Kroenke in that number 5 machine is able to crack the code and be your race winner. He started P number 4 this time, and it wasn't easy for him, but he shows that he really does have the making of a 2-time champion. It's 5 weeks till Silverstone. Can anyone find their way past Martin Kroenke? Check out RaceSpot Race Day at Silverstone, and then of course the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. From Jonathan Simon, from Rachel Whitefield on social media, Ivan Will Vincent, thank you so much for being a part of our coverage, and we will see you in 5 weeks' time at Silverstone. And someone, somewhere along the line, is going to have to find a way of beating Martin Kroenke.